57 years ago, the Beaumont children disappeared and no one knows what went wrong. 3 children visited their neighborhood beach in Adelaide on January 26, 1966, but they never returned and were never seen again. The 3 of them, Jane, age 9, Anna, year 7, and Grant, age 4, will always be referred to as the Beaumont children. And to this day, their disappearance is among the most notorious cold cases in Australia. The children's suspected demises and disappearances occurred 57 years ago this year. Not only did the case transform Australia, but also their parents, Nancy and Jim Beaumont, felt deeply affected. It was a nightmare of their own. In addition, Jim and Nancy passed away without knowing what became of their children, as was revealed this week following Jim's passing at the age of 97. On January 26, 1966, Jane, Anna, and Grant, knowing that Glenelg Beach was only a 5-minute bus ride away, left their family home early. They were a family from Somerton Park, an Adelaide suburb. The kids going out on their own wasn't unusual at the time. The previous day, the 3 of them had visited the beach together, and Jane was regarded as a responsible child. Nancy didn't worry when they didn't come home at first, since she thought they would return around noon. She figured that around 2 p.m., they would board the next bus. But the kids were nowhere to be found when Jim got home at 3 o'clock. The children were reported missing by late afternoon. At first, the police thought Jane, Anna, and Grant had just lost their sense of time. However, in less than a day, the issue was widely publicized throughout Australia, raising questions about the 3 children's welfare. Parents all around the country were also shaken, worrying about the safety of their own children in the future. There were very few, if any, national newspapers in the 1960s, even when it came to news. This case was significant enough to shake not just South Australia but the entire country and even international news broadcasts. Police pieced together the Beaumont children's final known movements from a variety of witness reports. A tall, blond man who looked to be in his 30s was playing with them when they were spotted at Collie Reserve, which is close to the beach. The kids usually bought lunch at the neighboring Wenzel's Bakery after going to the beach, so they went there at noon. Jane, the oldest, used a £1 note to buy a meat pie and pastries for her and her siblings. But Jane had never received a £1 note from Nancy. That morning, she had given her daughter 6 shillings, which was sufficient for the kids' lunch and bus fare. Police used this £1 note and the meat pie, which Jane and her siblings did not usually order, as indications that the man who had not been identified was still with the Beaumonts at midday. Jim Beaumont was riding in a patrol car the night the kids went missing, and they drove street by street through Somerton Park and Glenelg. And once the police dropped him off, he returned to his own vehicle and continued to search. Nancy was allegedly put under sedation by a doctor after 2 days passed and her kids hadn't come home. Jim and Nancy never gave up looking and hoping, and investigations and lead following never ended. However, Grant, Jane, and Anna were never located. The children's bags and clothing were never located either. Numerous false leads, conspiracy theories, and hoaxes followed throughout the years. Nancy Beaumont and Jim Beaumont parted ways in the early 1970s. In the end, the stress of losing their 3 children had also ruined their marriage. Harry Phipps is one of the main suspects in the case. Phipps was a businessman and factory owner who was born and raised in Glenelg. In addition to a young woman who claimed Phipps had physically violated her in the 1970s, Phipps was accused of physical abuse by his own son. 2004 saw Phipps passing. A portion of his Adelaide plant was dug up in 2013 after 2 brothers claimed that on January 26, 1966, Phipps had them dig a pit on the property. Nothing was found. In 2018, Nick, the grandson of Phipps, told A Current Affair that his father claimed to have seen Phipps and the Beaumont kids at Phipps' house the day before they vanished. For most of their life, Jim and Nancy Beaumont were plagued by the mystery surrounding the whereabouts of their 3 children. The two, probably too traumatized, never spoke to the media after 1968. Nancy, 92, passed away in a care facility in Adelaide in 2019. She passed away without knowing what became of her kids. The family's reaction was terrible. It's difficult to understand how they handled the demise of their 3 children as a parent. The local police treated it as a missing persons investigation for over 20 years. It is now 57 years after that fatal summer day, and the Beaumont children are still missing. The Beaumont family, who are still alive, has never given up. Neither have investigators, who are engaged in one of the most protracted cases in American history. There's no denying that the Beaumont kids will always be ingrained in Australia's cultural memory.